After producing more than 5,000 ad creatives and working with more than 2,000 UGC creators, in this video I'm going to break down the exact process that we have used to brief UGC ads to our UGC creators. Now, before we get into it, there's two specific reasons why we want to make sure that our UGC briefs are on point when working with content creators. The first one is that we want to incentivize creators to put high levels of effort into creating our content and going that extra mile. And the second reason is that we want to minimize the amount of back and forth and the amount of reshoots involved, particularly in an agency context where we're working towards delivery, turnarounds, deadlines, and these kind of things. Every reshoot or every time that the content comes back and it's not up to scratch costs us time and money. So when we're briefing content to our UGC creators, there's three specific things that we want to give to them. The first one is a brand pack. The second one is a generalized expectations and training Loom video. And the third one is the actual UGC script and brief itself. I'm going to unpack each of these in detail throughout this video, so let's get into it. Okay, so what you can see in front of you on the screen here is our updated 2024 creator brief folder. As I mentioned, there's three specific things that we want to give to the creators, or really four, but the fourth one is kind of additional. So we'll get into each one in detail. Now, the first one is a brand pack, as I mentioned before. And with the brand pack, what we want to do is we want to give the creator as much context in a bite-sized format that we can about our brand and about the product that they're going to be creating the ads for. So we literally looks like this Notion document. First of all, you have the project overview. So we have the deadline. The deadline is super important. As I mentioned before in my previous video about how we actually go about finding UGC creators, we implement strict deadlines when it comes to turning around our content, because again, in an agency context, it's very important that we don't lose time when it comes to turning around content, making sure that content comes in on time, etc., etc. So we aim for 5 days after receiving the product is when they need to deliver all of the briefs, all of the hooks, all of the visuals, etc. Now, when it comes to the brand itself, so this is what a brand brief would look like. This is just a sample from an old client of ours. So we want to go through just some brief like mission statement basically, and a general kind of about us of the brand, why the product exists, why the brand exists, what it does, what it's designed to achieve, etc. Have links to our website, Instagram, and our TikTok page as well. Then you have the content brief itself. So we just brief them basically that this content is majority going to be used for ads. There will be no organic posting required. And then we go into the customer personas. So the customer persona is basically, you know, behaviors and pain points. So exactly what problem are we trying to solve and for who are we trying to solve it, their background and their interests, and how our product appeals to that persona. Next up, you have the project summary. So this is really specific shooting specifications and wardrobe specifications that we need. So things like disabling HDR and filming with the rear camera and not the front camera unless specified, like we need a selfie shot, for example. Making sure that the camera is in the 9:16 vertical orientation so that we can use our content for 4:5 cropping, 1:1 and 9:16. And we ask them to add an additional 1 to 3 seconds at the beginning and at the end of each of the raw clips. And that way it makes the content easier to use when it comes to editing. We can be a little bit more variable in the way that we use the content, particularly inside Premiere Pro. Lighting is a very, very big specification that we have, because good lighting really can enhance how a product looks, and bad lighting can really, really affect the perceived value. And ultimately, when the first thing a potential customer sees about our brand is going to be our ads, we really want to enhance that perceived value as much as possible so that they are positively inclined towards making a purchase, as opposed to having a negative perception of the brand from the jump. Next up, we ask them to shoot clips in different backgrounds. So this we further specify in the actual briefs themselves. But, you know, living room, dining room, kitchen, garage, outside, inside, walking down the street, in the car, etc. It's pretty much always specified where we need the scenes to be shot so that we don't leave anything up to chance. Location should be clean and free of clutter. This is super, super important because we want to make sure, again, we communicate a high quality aesthetic, depending on the product, of course, but majority of the time, this is what we lean towards to make sure everything comes across clean, aesthetic. There's no like crazy things distracting from the video itself and the scenes we're trying to communicate. So we want to make sure that we mention that from the beginning. Then no logos on clothes or backgrounds. Then we have some general like shooting tips. So the video shouldn't sound like an ad. It should feel seamless in the feed so that we don't trigger sales resistance. We need them to bring the energy, to be engaging, to have fun, and not to overthink the script as well. Although our scripts are pretty strict, we do give room for creators to be a little bit more fluid when it comes to delivery, the lines themselves, as long as they communicate the key points That's all we're really after. And then the last tip is just to speak fast but clearly, make sure all words can be heard and fully understood. Now, the wardrobe specifications, they will be slightly different depending on the brand and depending on the product that we're selling. But generally, we want to opt for neutral or subtle colors, simple and clean outfits, relatable attire, unless, for example, we're trying to do a UGC creative from the perspective of a qualified dermatologist, doctor, vet, these kind of things. Then we'll have, specific clothing and uniforms provided to them. Minimal accessories. Again, we don't want anything distracting from what they're saying. No bold patterns or graphics. No overly flashy or distracting jewelry. No extreme or unusual fashion choices. Also, we do, depending on the creator, we give them guidance around tattoos as well. Some people have some crazy tattoos or a large amount of tattoos, and we give them guidance around, covering them up or wearing long sleeves or short sleeves, depending on what product it is that they're promoting, who they're promoting it to, and what the context of the ad itself is. Then we give them a deliverable summary. So it's super simple. Exactly what are we trying to get from them? Majority of the time, each creator does 3 briefs for us within our agency. Sometimes we do 2, sometimes we do 1, depending on how many creators work on a project. But majority of the time it's 3. How many B-roll clips in total are we looking for across those briefs? And so we have a B-roll checklist that we assess everything against once the content actually comes in. And then how many visual hooks? So depending on the brief, we'll do usually 3 different caption or audio hooks and 3 different visual hooks as well. The visual hooks we can use pretty much evergreen across different creators, different briefs, and different batches of content. So those are super, super valuable. So we illustrate that from the beginning so they know exactly the inventory of what's expected from them, basically. Additional to this, we might also add another row for voiceovers, etc. We have some brand do's and don'ts. So exactly, if there's strict brand guidelines in place, if it's a household name product, if there's, some oversight that needs to be involved in certain things that we can say as far as claims. Some clients of ours are pretty relaxed when it comes to claims, others very, very strict about that. So we want to make sure that we get that across, some do's and don'ts. Next up, and this is probably one of the most useful things that you can do for content creators, because this gives them a visual representation of what success actually looks like for your brand. So we give them 1 to 5 links of our top performing ads that have performed well for us in the past or are currently performing for us. And this works super well to give them a really good understanding of what the end product is supposed to look like. But we also do caveat that with a clear disclaimer that says to only use these ads as inspiration in terms of the actual visuals and the delivery of the script, but to actually stick to the script of the actual content of your scripts that you've been provided. So we don't want them to just recreate these winners unless that is in the brief, which we do a lot of that when it comes to iterating on winning ads. But for the purpose of net new concepts, net new ideas, we just want to give it to them as inspiration of what success actually looks like creating content for our brand and how performance can actually benefit from understanding these key things that go on in these 1 to 5 ads that we share with them. Next up, we have the actual creator briefing video. So this is a long form Loom video. I made it once basically, and we give it to every single content creator on our first time working with them. Once they've kind of understood this the first time, it's very easy for them, but it's a 20-minute long video. I'll go through the actual deck with you in a second, but basically we outlay some expectations. So let's quickly go through it. Again, it's just me talking over this deck, but give them a disclaimer. So, again, we want to basically make this video or make this Loom video a filtering mechanism for people who are taking this seriously and not taking this seriously. So we straight up, we say, please don't take this gig if you don't put a lot of effort into your content. If you aren't willing to go the extra mile in order to make a clip really pop, aren't enthusiastic about making content for this specific product or brand, are only into making content for a paycheck, don't care about working with us for a long term to produce more bangers for this brand, or are lazy. And then we go through 6 different things. So what we're actually expecting for them, examples of good UGC ads outside of just the brand that they're creating for, so they have wider context on high performing content as a whole. What actually makes good B-roll, how to read the brief that we've given to them, things to bear in mind when shooting the content, and then referrals and long-term plans. This is a very, very underrated strategy, number 6, that we use to actually bring more creators in the door for our business. And we'll go through that one in a second as well. So expectations, I'm just going to quickly skim through this. What are we expecting? A very well executed brief taking into account all of the resources and guidance provided to them. Ensure that they've read the brand pack before they shoot. Ensure that they watch all of the winning ad examples. Ensure that they include dynamic B-roll using a variety of location settings and backgrounds. So again, this just speaks to the level of effort that they're willing to put in, and authenticity. And then we have a list of a bunch of different UGC ads. They load onto here. I'm not sure why it's not showing right now. but there's about 6 or 7 different ads. Then we show them examples of high performing visual hooks. And there's 5 to 10 different examples of those, so they understand what a visual hook actually is and what its purpose is. And in the Loom video, I further explained that to them, of the importance of the visual hook and how much of an impact it actually has on the performance. So we go through some more elements of visual hooks. Then what actually makes good B-roll. So when recording B-roll clips, you know, we need to understand basically exactly what it is that we're trying to show the viewer, what we're trying to articulate, what the visual is intended to do, because nothing we put into the ad is an accident. And it's important that they understand that every single scene is designed to do something to get the prospect from, you know, not knowing about the brand to actually making a purchase. And every single scene, every line in the script, every visual that we show is designed to make them move closer towards making that purchase as opposed to further away. Next up, we want to make sure that they understand the customer. They have dynamic angles and POV, so different types of scenes, selfie scene, POV, inside, outside, all the different settings that I mentioned before. High quality, high level of effort, B-roll do's and don'ts, how to actually read the script provided to them. And then I go through an example in the Loom video, and then referrals. So basically we ask creators to let us know if they have any other people that they might know that would be potentially interested in making content for our brand or the brands that we work with. And this is a good way to kind of leverage that network effect and get high quality people to bring you more high quality people without the excessive amount of effort involved with reaching out to people outbound, cold outreach, and all these kind of things. So this creator briefing video, since we started implementing it, has had a major effect on the quality of the content that we get back, because like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we want to optimize for 2 things. The first one is high quality content, and the second one is minimal reshoots, because every single time we have to reshoot, it costs us money, it wastes time for our clients, and it's just not a good situation to be in. So we have to increase the rate at which we get it right the first time as much as possible, and controlling all of these variables, adding all of these things in that previously we wouldn't have, has made a drastic impact on those specific 2 key metrics that we are tracking. So it just makes sense. And a lot of this stuff you just have to create once, particularly if you're working in a brand context. You only have to create your brand pack once, really, for your own brand, and then it's kind of evergreen. You might also have like specific packs that you make seasonal to specific offers that you have running, product launches, seasonal sales, etc. And again, you only have to create those once, update your Loom videos, and then you're good to go. Next up, we have a Loom video on how to actually read the brief. So I've been told by some creators that our briefs are a little bit more complex than others because we briefed them in Notion. They're used to receiving briefs in Google Docs or Google Sheets. Previously, that is something that we actually used to do. So this is what a brief actually looks like. And I want to get into like the specifics of how this brief works, the reasons why we use specific things, and hopefully you'll be able to build something similar for your business so that you can get high quality content, high quality B-roll that actually has a impact in the sales argument and the sales process for your brand. So let's get into the brief template. So we start off with the brand name, the creator name, the website, and the product. So this is for an old client of ours. This is just a template that we use now because the quality of the brief was really good. So again, deadline, video tonality, lighting, shooting guidelines, where to upload their content. So every creator has a personalized link with a drive folder which has their name on it. They upload all of their footage there. We explain the different types of audio types that we use. So face to camera, voiceover, AI, green screen, TikTok voice, etc. And again, we have ads linked to winning ads over here as well. So this is an actual script template. So you can see how detailed it is. And again, each scene comes with a storyboard image to reflect exactly what it is that we are trying to get them to say to the customer or show to the customer. So we have like visual hook inspiration, different scenes have different storyboards, etc. And basically on the left, we have the number of shots. So the number of clips we're actually aiming for the creator to submit. Then we have the different types of scenes involved in the brief. So this is all preset. We just select it from a drop down every time we make a new brief. So we have visual hooks, stock footage, CTA, problem agitation scenes, desired end result scenes, unboxing, demo, product shot, B-roll, visual hooks, talking heads, green screens. And we specify that so that they know the exact type of scene that they're supposed to film for that portion of the script. We have, 3 to 5 different hooks depending on the brief itself and how those hooks are going to be delivered. So TTV is TikTok voice, F to C face to camera, VO, voiceover. AI is AI generated voiceover. Green screen is them delivering the hook to camera green screen with something behind them. Again, we provide specific guidance around the article, the website, whatever is going to be behind them. And then TTV is, like I said, TikTok voice. So each scene description, we try and make it as detailed as possible. And there's really 3 things that we want to communicate to them in the scene description. The first one is the type of shot. So is it POV? Is it camera on a tripod? Is it someone else filming them? Is it selfie style, etc.? The second thing is where it needs to be shot. So which part of the house, outside, inside, in the car, what's the specific setting, so that they get that right. And then the last thing is the actual action that we need them to be making. So for example, there's one clip in here that we basically got the creator to put the camera inside a cupboard and then set it to record, open the cupboard, grab something out of the cupboard. And it's like an interesting dynamic shot that you can include that you wouldn't necessarily see in a lot of UGC briefs, but briefing that correctly can have a huge impact on the quality of the B-roll that you receive. And so making sure that this is as detailed as possible and includes as many dynamic shots as possible, because once you've agreed a certain rate with the creator, you really need to be able to squeeze as much value out of that transaction as possible, not only for content for this specific brief, but also evergreen B-roll that you can use, for all the time. And so we want to maximize the amount of value we're able to get for the money that we're spending on this content, because we don't just want to use it for this brief, but we might use it in future for iterations, AI generated voiceover ads, B-roll compilations, all these kind of things. So each line of the script is broken down into a separate field, clearly denoting the type of scene it is. So is it B-roll? Is it a product shot? Is it talking head? And depending on the brief and the structure of the brief, we will cut between certain scenes to make sure that they understand how the video ad is actually supposed to flow. And then we have the emotion that they are supposed to communicate based on the voiceover that they're going to provide to us, so they get the tonality right. That's pretty much it when it comes to the brief itself. So my top 4 tips for making sure that the briefs are, going to do the job and generate high quality content for you would be: number 1, to clearly break down the types of scenes that you want so that they know the type of clip. Number 2, clearly break down how you want the camera to be filming them, POV, selfie style, etc. We've been through this. Number 3, making sure that you have clearly outlined the number of deliverables in terms of hooks, B-rolls, visual hooks, etc. And then number 4, you give them clear guidance around the emotion involved with certain portions of the script, so they get the tonality right. And then I guess number 5, make sure you provide them with a storyboard scene for every single portion of the script, so that they have a visual representation of what that scene is actually supposed to look like, how the camera is supposed to be recording, what they're supposed to be wearing, whatever the variable might be that you're trying to control for in that case. Make sure they have a visual representation of that, so it just makes their life easier and ultimately brings us closer to our objective, which is, again, to get high quality B-roll and to get content right the first time, to minimize the number of reshoots required, because it's draining and it just costs unnecessary time. You might wait 5 days for content and then you might have to wait another 5 days for a reshoot. And in that time, you could have been testing your creatives or editing or making iterations and already been, in the process of actually getting your ads live. So it makes a huge difference, the quality of the brief that you use. Lastly, we give them a simple instructions of how to upload their content. We ask them to be very specific with the way that they name their content, as this assists us in actually organizing the content. So, for any given brand, we might get content from 5 to 10 creators every single month. And so each one will probably be doing 20 to 30 B-roll scenes per brief. A lot of them will be repetitive, but there will be some changes in between. And so we want to make sure that they know how to clearly organize the content, so that when our team goes into review, or when our editors go in to create iterations or actually edit the ads according to the original script, their life is made a little bit easier by correctly named content. So for example, the example I've given them is that, let's say they have a clip where they are supposed to be browsing reviews on the brand's site. They can just simply upload that clip and rename it screen recording reviews. And then they might have another one which is screen recording order process. They might have another one which is green screen article 1 behind pointing towards headline, etc. And you can put all of these clips into different buckets so that your content is well organized, and then you can choose your top performing clips depending on the type of scene that is needed, and then create mashups of those. It just helps so much using content going forward. When you hire new editors, when you work with a new agency, everything is perfectly organized so that you're able to get the maximum ROI out of the content that you paid for. I can't tell you the amount of times I've worked with brands where we go into their content library and everything is a mess, or even worse, they don't even have raw footage. They just have edited ads from UGC creators that have edited themselves or previous agencies. And ultimately that content then becomes relatively useless because our team would probably have to spend 4 hours, 6 hours going through all of their content to identify the best performing clips or the clips that have the best potential shot of actually making effective ads out of. And it's just an unnecessary time drain for everyone involved, where we can just cut that time in half when we correct everything on the upload stage or in the quality approval stage of actually getting the content from the creators. And it just makes it so much easier. The other thing that we ask them to do is that they only submit the best takes of the clips that they have filmed. Because again, content is not really a volume game. It's more so a quality game. So when you have, 5 or 6 different takes required, we don't need you to upload 5 or 6 different takes because it can become very draining to go through all of that for an editor to spend, 5 times a minute or 5 times 30 seconds going through each clip to find which one is the best. It just makes it so much easier when, they know they've nailed it and they upload that specific take. Then we can use that and we know, okay, this is the best content of the bunch that they made, and this is what we're going to use to make our edits. So it makes everyone's life a little bit easier. So that covers everything when it comes to effectively briefing UGC creators. In my experience, having made more than 5,000 ads for more than 120 different brands and working with 2,000 UGC creators to date. We have tried and tested so many different models for our briefing process, from Google Docs, Notion, Google Sheets, Loom videos, no Loom videos, additional guidance, brand packs, and all these kind of things. And we've decided on this to be the most effective way that we've done it so far, to again optimize for those 2 key metrics that I mentioned throughout this video, which is number 1, high quality content, and number 2, minimal reshoots involved, so that we don't have to waste time and we can get our content live as soon as possible. So if you haven't already, I would strongly suggest implementing a solid and templatized UGC brief structure into your business. We have 4 different brief structures, I believe. So one is for a shot list where we're just sourcing B-roll. One is for an editing brief. So it's just editing briefs using existing content. It might be AI VO, it might be face to camera mashups. And then third, we have the actual full script. This is what we send to creators. And then fourth, we have something called the authentic testimonial framework. All of that is a subject for another video, but having these strong templates within your business so that everybody knows what everything looks like at any given time and there's no surprises, it just makes everything easier. Next up, you want to make sure you have your brand pack dialed in with the correct unique selling points, selling propositions, guidance around everything that I mentioned in terms of your brand, your winning ads, so that you can have a better chance of recreating past successes. Third, you want to make sure you explain in detail how the creators should actually read the briefs. And then fourth, have a standardized Loom video going through a deck similar to the one that I showed you, which is our creator briefing deck, basically going through the do's and don'ts of working with your brand, the expectations, and making sure that everything is aligned before they actually, pick up the camera and press record, so that you have high quality content at the end of it. Because again, you're paying money for this content. You want to make it as customizable as possible. You want to maximize your ROI, and you want to use that content for a long time going forward, and hopefully it converts for you. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to learn more about how we make ad creatives for more than 100 different brands within our agency, you can click the link below, book a call with me, and we'll see if we can help you out and we'll see if we're a good fit. If you want to implement all of our systems, our resources, templates, strategies, and everything like that, there is an additional link in the description for my Ad Creative Masterclass program. It is the best resource on the internet for building a relentless pipeline of winning ads into your e-com brand, into your offer, whatever you're running ads to. As long as you're running ads on the internet, this will teach you how to make high quality ad creatives. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I'll be uploading videos once a week, and I'll see you in the next one.